Now's the time to get back.
Exactly. So, like I said, I was like, I had to think back to how did I do this? Like, I've done like 3 documentaries in school, and I love interviewing people. So that's how this came across.
Oh, good. I think it's a great idea. And who
Mhm.
knows where it might lead.
Mhm.
So keep going.
Exactly, exactly. But overall, how you doing? How's Black History Month treating you?
It's good, Phil. I'm always working, um, and so I keep my eyes on the prize that way. I keep focused, and that's how you get things done. One image at a time, one story at a time, one podcast at a time. It all adds up. And I found that one thing leads to another. And you will too. Like in interviewing somebody, it might trigger an idea, a thought, or another avenue. And so the same is with my work. And I just kind of trust the work, like you should do. Just trust your instincts, and that will lead you to where you need to be, who you need to talk to, and what you need to be doing.
Exactly, Lenny. Always, always. I'm always listen. I'm productive every day. Just make sure I'm doing something.
Something, yeah. Besides
So,
having fun.
yes, yeah. So I guess we can go ahead and get this underway. So hey guys. So I'm Phil, host of the Conversation Podcast. Glad it's Friday finally. So I got a special guest with me. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Who's Lenny Foster I'm speaking to this Friday afternoon?
Well, thanks for having me, Phil. I'm Lenny Foster, photographer in St. Augustine. Been here 8 years and happy to be in the ancient city for the moment.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, it's been a while since we last spoke. I know I was in college trying to do my thing, and now I'm getting ready to talk to you, interview you 1-on-1.
Yeah, we met at a good time. I've been working on this historic series, Where We Stand, where I find out about important places, events, and people connected to the African American history here or the civil rights history here. And I place
Mhm.
shoes in those locations. And then I write the narrative about the history. And you and uh, three of your classmates helped me set up a shoot at Flagler College that represented the 155 students from Murray High School who marched from their school down to the Ponce Hotel to protest the segregated hotel, which is that building is now Flagler College. So you were instrumental in helping me make a beautiful image.
Yeah. Hey, good times. So so now before we get this thing underway, we're gonna do a little bit of an icebreaker. Now, here's the icebreaker. What's your favorite black lead movie? Like, my favorite one is Black Panther, of course. Like, you have a favorite black lead movie?
Yeah, that's got to be one of the tops. So, but I was always inspired by, this is old school. I was always inspired by Glory with Denzel Washington, which is, I don't know, that's probably made in the 80s,
Yeah.
before your
That's
time.
that was a good movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But I watch a lot of movies. It's hard to keep track of both characters and leads and titles, but I certainly enjoy cinema.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, I've been watching a few movies. I've been trying to watch one last night. I was trying to watch Captain America: Brave New World again. That's a really good one. Like, there's a lot of backlash because Steve Rogers wasn't back as Captain America, but I'd be telling people like he gave the shield to Sam Wilson for a reason. So, but
Right,
I don't care what they say. I actually enjoyed the
right,
movie.
right. What I've enjoyed recently is God, was it Superman, the latest Superman with Mr. Terrific?
Yeah,
That character? Did you see that
yeah,
movie? Yeah,
I like Mr. Terrific. He was amazing.
yeah. And I think I forget the actor's name, but of course he's been in, had significant roles in previous movies, and I would imagine that he may get his own uh, a movie surrounded around him. I hope.
It's possible. One movie that I did like last year was Sinners.
Yes, watched it 3 times.
And it won a lot of nominations for the Oscars, but instead of nominations, we need to have them see that actually win an award now.
Yes, just recently, uh, with I guess the nominations, the Oscar nominations, and like the Golden Globes and all that. Um, I, I came across Delroy Lindo's story, and recently I was kind of bummed out because I didn't get my props for a local project I've been working on and helped put together, and uh, not so much for my advancement or income, but I just thought it would be important. And I got no really public acknowledgement for that. And I was a little bummed. And then I hear about Delroy Lindo's story, who's been an actor for over 50 years and has never been nominated. And even though he's gotten critical acclaim for some of his roles, he still hasn't had a nomination. So I'm hopeful uh, that he will win for Sinners.
I hope so too. I can't wait to see it because I think the Oscars starts next month. I think
It,
it does.
it could be very soon. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hoping he wins that Oscar because I'm going to be watching too now.
Yeah. Brilliant role. Brilliant role.
So, all right, now that the ice is broken, since I know you only have an hour before you get to your shoot, I've only come up with 12 questions, but they're phenomenal.
Okay. Good.
So,
Good.
let's
Thank you so much.
no problem. Let's start with number one, which is origins and evolution. Now, you spent over 20 years building your artistic life in Taos, if I got that correctly.
Taos.
Taos, okay.
Taos, New Mexico. Yeah.
Taos, New Mexico, okay. Before relocating to St. Augustine, what did Taos teach you about yourself as an artist, and what did leaving it teach you about growth?
Well, great question. When I went to Taos, New Mexico, it was 1993, and I had just visited there maybe 6 months prior, and I was in the DC area in the car business and fairly new at photography, a couple years. So I went to Taos to visit and was blown away by everything: the landscape, the light, the peace, the architecture, the the energy, the spirituality of the land and the culture. The native culture, which has been there probably over 1,000 years, and Hispanic cultures also not quite that long, but for several generations. So I loved all of that, and so after 6 months after my vacation, I ended up moving out there just to try to pursue my photography and to have a kind of a different way of life. That 65-hour-a-week grind got old. The money didn't, but the energy and what it took from me did. So I went out to Taos, and it is in Taos where I learned my craft. And it's funny enough, it was out of necessity, because when I landed in Taos, I realized that the average rate of pay, hourly rate, was like probably what I was making in 1975. So I thought, oh my God, what have I done? Uh, and so it came to me that I was taking pictures and I was making these cards and it was selling them in different shops. But what that forced me to do is to make my passion and my love for taking pictures to make that work for me, to um, help me to support myself. And so that's how it all began. And I was really fortunate in that Taos is a town of average of maybe 65, 7,000 people at 7,000 feet. Um, and it's made up of a lot of creatives in every genre. They're master painters, musicians, sculptors, writers, dancers, um, and other types of performers. And so it was really supportive, and Taos was supportive, and people trying to come there and to do their thing, because that's been going on for 100+ years or so. So when I got there, I started the practice of trying to turn my passion into profit, so to speak, and got support in that. And so I learned along the way. There, I'm not professionally trained. I don't have a BFA or MFA. I just have learned behind the camera. I'm self-taught, and so uh, I had to learn how to be at one a professional. I had to learn how to uh, to work with people who commissioned me to do work. I had to get my sales game up because there's no sense in making good art and then not being able to talk about it or sell it. So being in Taos kind of created an environment to help me to learn and do all of that. Uh, Whereas, I was a guy who just loved taking pictures and hadn't set out on becoming a professional, but um, um, the way things happen in Taos, that was what I was directed to do. So I followed that path, and and so I learned. I learned about how to shoot landscapes. I learned how to shoot a little bit of interiors for commercial work. I learned how to shoot architecture. I started shooting portraits or little family gatherings. Um, and then I developed, it took a while, but I started to develop a style and an interest. And of course, anything you do repeatedly, you become a little bit better at. So the things that I focused on became, I think, exceptionally good in capturing those kind of images, and those images became popular. So if it hadn't been for Taos, I probably would not be doing what I'm doing now. Maybe I would just and I was from the DC area. Maybe I would still be in the car business and suffering, or I would, uh, have followed the path of my passion, but maybe not as successful as I've been in recent years.
Yeah. That's sweet. Because I know, and listen, before we got on, I actually did some research on the place you were in before, Taos. Because I know Taos is almost known, like mostly known for all this, like the rich architecture there. They have their own like art museum. And I was like, I didn't know they had an art museum. So I was like, that's probably where you got your inspirations by going to those certain places and checking out the landscape and kind of like have those ideas flowing so you can understand what exactly like what exactly the picture you're trying to go for here.
Yeah, there are actually, I think, 4 museums in Taos. And of course, visiting museums, and Taos at the time had a number of wonderful galleries, along with Santa Fe, which was an hour and a half south. Those 2 places are kind of 2 of the art meccas in the country. So, look at going to the varied museums and going to the galleries. You see what fine work is. You see what you get ideas about location or how the light, people use the light, how that works, the varied subject matter, or in some cases you try to uh, duplicate that or not exactly copy it, but being inspired by that, you try to do similar work and you get similar ideas and you learn to put your own. I learned to put my own little twist on it. So yeah, and I don't think I would have followed this path if I had like went to Albuquerque or something, or
Yeah.
Cincinnati, Ohio, or you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you. I got you. It's really interesting. So it's nice. Um, let's go to the next question. When you first picked up a camera decades ago, were you chasing beauty, meaning, healing, or were you simply trying to understand something inside yourself?
Phil, I think all of that. But initially, I picked up the camera in 1991. And at the time, I was a sales manager at a car dealership, working crazy hours uh, kind of, and, really over it. But it was a way to support myself. And I enjoyed it at times too. But I picked up the camera in 1991, and that was after being sober 5 years. I got sober in 1986. I was a party boy, and that almost took me down permanently. And so, I got help with that. Saw it rehab, sought treatment, and I was very active in the 12-step programs, and I was probably more physically active than I am today. Working out, playing a lot of racquetball, and those kind of things. And the the picking up the camera was by pure accident. I needed something to do to replace that void, so to speak. I dedicated a lot of time and energy and money to partying. And so with that gone, of course, the spiritual aspect of the 12-step programs filled a lot of that, but there was still something I needed to do. There was something missing. And I just asked to be led to something. And it's funny, like weeks later, I walked into a pawn shop and saw this Pentax K1000. I knew nothing about photography, but I thought it might be something to do. And a friend of mine encouraged me, and he went and looked at the camera. He told me to buy the damn thing. And I did. And with that first roll, I was off to the races. I was hooked. And what it did for me, it was, I think, a major part of healing and staying in the present moment, because you're creating work, you're making photographs, you can't be thinking about what happened last year or last month or what might happen next week. You really have to be in the moment. You're invited to be in the moment, and everything else just kind of dissipates. And there's a quietness, there's a sereneness, it's a joy. And with that too, I think it certainly brought about healing, and awakening. I started to pay more attention to my surroundings, my more natural surroundings, which I would gravitate to, the National Arboretum, the botanical gardens, the Byzantine gardens, the Shenandoahs, the Eastern Shore. Those were my first haunts. And if you can imagine, I mean, that being the practice, you're walking in nature, which is the great healer, and doing that repeatedly, it brought about peace. And I started to notice things, and I started becoming more interested in art. I started going to, DC, there's just loads of museums. I started going to museums and seeing different shows and being inspired. And then I thought, man, these things that I come across are so beautiful. They bring me so much joy and peace. And taking the pictures and sharing them, I will in some way bring that to others. And I've tried to do that for about 30 years now. So the early beginnings where I was of course very naive, and I was just trying to put blocks of peace and time between the present moment and the chaos of the insanity of the car business.
Wow, that's a lot. And I can respect you that, because I know with some photographers and whatever content creators are doing, like all kind of like artistic stuff, like, I know some people just do something and they don't understand what they're doing at first. But now it's like we're taking the time and brainstorming, like, what's the context behind of what I'm doing? And in your case, this sort of thing where you have to do like, you picked up a camera because you had to do all the above. You were chasing something beautiful, something that has meaning to it. Like, if it doesn't have meaning to it, then I don't see the point in doing it. And lately, because I did photography when I was in college. I mean, I put it back on the shelf because I had a little bit of an incident in April of last year. But I started to realize that maybe I was just doing it just to be taking pictures. I really didn't understand why I was doing it. Well, I was still learning. And I think I had to mature to the point where I was be like, okay, I really need to start doing art stuff for context now. If I don't have any context, then it's not going to look good behind it.
That's true, man. That's an astute observation. With anything now, God, it has to have meaning and purpose. It doesn't have to serve humanity or the masses or anything, or make some bold, brilliant, profound social commentary. But for you, or for me, the individual, it has to mean something. And when people just kind of phone it in or they bring their all. You can certainly tell the difference in both in whatever art, music, sports. So uh, I wanted to on an honest level try to share what I've experienced, and fortunately, people can experience what I experienced through looking at viewing the images.
Yeah, because lately these days, I know I don't post like a lot of pictures these days on Instagram. Because thing is, after a while, I was like, I'm not gonna post anything on Instagram going forward if it doesn't have any meaning behind it. So like I have to next time I see something, I do something like amazing, I need to make sure I brainstorm, understand, okay, why am I posting this? And that goes with saying that like I've seen some of your artwork on Instagram, and I've looked at the descriptions. They are really powerful descriptions, and I like that. So I just kind of figured, hey, if I'm gonna keep doing something like that, I need to make sure I have, something that's gonna back it up.
Yeah, I think that's great, man. And and the key, like for me, is to keep doing, because when you keep doing it, then you kind of stumble across your destiny. Um, and two, I can't remember what old school blues guy uh, that said this. He says, "Well, you can't play the blues unless you experience the blues." And I think about that a lot in terms of like some of the work I create. I mean, you can't. Uh, you have to experience things first and live some life first before you can interpret that or have experiences, varied experiences. Um, um, even in order for you to know what you want to interpret. So I think it's wise. One of the best things that happened to me early on was in 1990, probably the winter of 1994. I had one camera, a Nikon something, um, and it broke. It went down. It needed repairs, and so I had to send it off. And that was my one camera. I still don't have a lot of cameras. I'm not a real gearhead, but I was without that for a few months until the spring. And I was shooting a certain way in a certain subject matter before that camera broke. And when I got the camera back, this was right before I was going to Senegal, West Africa, for this week-long healing ritual, and that experience changed my life. But I got the camera back not long before that, and then when I went to Africa in April of 1995 into Senegal, uh, I focused on people, whereas that wasn't my main focus. Um, so that experience of not having a camera and looking at things in a different way, which probably is what you're doing now, and maybe being more mindful, more thoughtful, uh, and more discriminate about what you want to focus on. That will serve you as that time with me not having a camera served me, because I was looking and interpreting and imagining and focusing without the camera. And when I got the camera back in my hands, I started, of course, in Senegal, and these beautiful people that we were in this community with, I couldn't help but notice the beauty and the energy emanating from them. So that's what my focus turned, and that's what I started taking pictures of. I started doing more portraits, and I started this wonderful series, which I didn't know it would be a series at the time, Healing Hands. My first images of these healing hands, which focusing on hands is using that as portraiture. Um, I came back with 7 or 8 images from that 40 great images that I got, and that kind of became my signature and set me off in a direction. I'm still, that body of work, probably I'm up to about 350 images of that, and have produced one book in 2013, and hopefully next year I'll do another Healing Hands book. But that that time without the camera helped me to reset, uh, and to go about and do my thing. And then when it was time with camera in hand, I had a new attitude.
That's sweet, man. But yeah, for us, and this is working, and but yeah, I think going forward with us, and that healing ritual, that's gotta be sweet. I might have to check that out sometime, look into it. But you have to like I said, with us, like going forward, it took me a while to like understand how I'm doing this thing, but nowadays I'm just being more aware and try to understand context behind the stuff I'm doing, and also I'm trying to read more information these days as well. So I think that's something nice to have.
Yeah, yeah, it's good to get some background.
Exactly. Um, we're almost at the end of section one, and then we'll be on section two. Now you own the Living Light Photography Gallery for over 20 years, and that's no small feat. How did running a gallery shape not just your business mind, but your creative discipline?
Great question, Phil. Well, um, the the gallery came out of as a result of I was doing uh, family pictures, reunions. I started doing these small weddings in Taos because someone forced me to do a wedding. A friend who owned a B&B, they forced me to do this wedding. I said, I don't do weddings. She says, well, the wedding is that Saturday at 3 o'clock. Show up with your camera. I was like, okay, yes, dear. So I went and I photographed this little wedding. There was 6 people. The couple, the owners of the B&B, and the officiant and his wife, which I became dear friends with, and even the couple that I photographed. That was probably 1999 or something, 2000. I don't remember exactly, but I'm still friends with that couple today. Uh, they live in Austin, Texas. So that first wedding I ever did. But um, I was doing these different things, uh, events, and people would ask, well, where can we see your work? And I was like, well, I've got some in the back of my truck. And I was meeting people, prospective clients. I was meeting them at the coffee shop, and because it was a local hang, and then became, and then I started getting phone calls at the coffee shop. And I thought, well, this is not all that professional. So I needed to get a little space. And so I got a little space, it was probably, I don't know, 400 square feet, these 2 little rooms. And that was my office. And because of that, I was able to put some work on the wall. Early on was that work from Senegal, and a few local images. Um, so I had a nice place to meet clients, and the uh, the work on the walls helped me to get clients, and the clients that was meeting help the work on the walls to become seen and collected. So they kind of fed each other, um, and that little space I had for 3+ years, and it became apparent that I needed a bigger space, and I was doing more work, and I wanted to do a little bit larger work, and I just needed space. I wanted to expand, and in spite of my doubts and fears of tripling my size of a gallery and expenses, um, I was freaked out about doing that. But uh, as this happens then and since then, the work always leads me to where I need to go, what I need to do, how I need to be. So because of the work I was doing, I was forced to expand and and um, and present the work. One thing I learned early in being in Taos with a number of galleries and a number of artists who were professionals, not kind of part-time artists. These were pros. I needed to act as a professional, and I need to present the work as professionally as possible. And if I'm going to have a space, I need to work. And I show up every day, and I try to be consistent. Uh, and for their number of years, I've been kind of a one-man band, with the exception of maybe uh, 12 years. I had assistants in Taos because I had three different galleries, three different sizes, three different locations. Each one kind of each time I expanded to a different spot, different uh, uh, venue, and a different way to present work. So I just try to be consistent in my creating. Um, you try to do everything professionally, like just creating the work in a professional manner, presenting work in a professional manner, and then trying to market the work in a professional manner. And I was forced to do this because nobody's just going to, if you have a space, they're going to walk in. If your presentation is whack, or you got stuff taped up on the walls, pictures anyway. If you don't talk to them like you're a seasoned professional or someone who is sincere about what they're doing, and being a likable person too. People want to do business with people they like, and no matter the product. So I try to present everything professionally, act professionally, and enjoy myself along the way. And Taos taught me that. I don't know. I couldn't probably land in a big city and do that, uh, but with the pace and space in Taos, and then becoming a familiar artist, I found it easier to uh, and Taos was generous with me because I made mistakes along the way, but I've always tried to learn as I go, and you can only do that by if you're out there doing stuff.
Wow. Yeah, and I like how you said, because I know I spoke to I don't know if you saw it, but I spoke to a black tattoo artist earlier this month. And it took her a while to get her own place. Of course, she had to work in a place that she didn't feel comfortable in. But I think it's gonna, like, when you start something, it's gonna take a while before people can be like, okay, we can bring this guy and see what he has to offer, especially with your business. I know,
Yeah,
listen, I know when I start this thing, it's gonna be a while before I get to like these big names or whatnot. Because I just think the thing is, it's gonna be a while before I become a veteran at this because I just started season 2. So it's you got to make sure you have enough work you've done over the last maybe 3 to 5 years, and people will be able to like take you seriously and be
absolutely.
like, hey, I've seen some of your work. You've done this for a few years. Let's have a discussion about it.
That's true, Phil. It took about that amount of time in Taos, but because I said I landed in an artistic community, and I was, really intimidated because, I work on inspiration, not education. I don't have an educational background in the arts, so I had to learn how to be an artist, uh, and Taos helped me to do that. Um, and it probably took about 5 years for people to say, "Oh, okay, this guy is serious," because I worked like I was and I presented like I was, but still, you aren't maybe welcome into the club right away, or you don't get the recognition that you deserve, or maybe even the sales that you think you should have. So it took me a while to keep going, and it's funny enough, even after having a gallery for 20 years, uh, being a photographer for at the time 25 years, when I got here, kind of the same thing happened. I got this little gallery, and like, I'm serious. I didn't come here to play. I'm here to have a good time, but I'm not here to play.
Mm.
And the work, it took a while for it to be seen as um, professional, as an artist, even as a businessman, and in both in Taos, whether the I was the only minority African American. The African American percentage in Taos is probably 1%, but and I was a business owner, the only one in Taos. and in that gallery for 6 years, or 5 years in a row, was voted the best gallery in Taos. Which I know that probably drove some people crazy, but that is what it is. So I was serious there, and when I got here, not I didn't have to prove myself necessarily, but it's taken some time for people to become familiar and see the quality of the work and to really, see what I'm about.
Hey, you know the old saying, hard work does pay off. It's
It,
going to take time. I posted in my bio on my Instagram, like, never give up because great things take time, and they do. And that's the mindset we have to work on. Like, if you want to, shoot for the stars, you can shoot for the stars when you begin, but you're okay with landing on the moon when you start.
yeah, there's no overnight sensations, in this time of instant gratification. And, of course, people want instant recognition, want all of these followers and all of these likes, and you know, and all of that. It's important to just like do what you're doing. Just do your work every day, pay your dues, be true to what you do, and be patient, because it's not a race, and
Mhm.
it's not a destination. It's a journey.
Exactly my thought. um, now we're done with that section. We're on section 2, spiritually and artistic philosophy. So
Oh, you're
number
getting deep here, Phil. You're getting deep, brother.
I try.
Yeah.
Um, your work feels deeply spiritual, almost meditative. Now, do you see photography as documentation or as a form of prayer?
Phil, I think you need to be my PR man. Yeah, you're hired. Well, it's interesting. Not everyone can notice that, Phil. And I've been thinking about this. Um, my work it's not sexy. It's not, although I do have some sexy pictures, let me tell you, but the work is not sexy. It's not flashy. It's not, it doesn't scream. It's not loud. Look at me, look at me, look at me. It's, um, I think it's an antidote to sometimes what goes on in between my ears, or what's going on out there in the world. It's quiet. It's meditative almost. It's healing to some degree, and it's pleasing, certainly. Uh, and it goes way beyond aesthetics. Um, I've experienced, and my galleries have been like a laboratory, because I see people, they come in here and I watch them, and I watch how they interact with the work, or how they don't interact with the work, how they just fluff something off, pass it off, or they stand mesmerized, and it often surprises me, or people come in, and both here and in New Mexico, and they get emotional. And sometimes I'm surprised at the person that does that, and I'm surprised about the image that makes them emotional. Uh, so to me, that's the work is true. If I can maintain that in this, which is seemingly just a crazy world, uh, if I can just maintain that and create a space for people to come in and experience that, or create work and for them to want enough to look at every day, to take home, and it brings them joy, it brings them peace, it makes them smile, or it makes them uh, to access their inner divinity, or to meditate. Um, I think that's the basis of the work for me, because that's how I kind of live my life. Uh, I'm not gonna live my life like I'm cray cray and then come in and try to create some peaceful work, right? No, it doesn't. It doesn't work that way. They have to work hand in hand, so to speak. And An example, like last night, sometimes often I wake up in the middle of the night. Sometimes pleasant thoughts go through my head, sometimes not so pleasant. Uh, but early morning, I woke up and I thought of this image that I've taken recently. And actually, it was a video. I've been photographing these the last just over a year, almost, yeah, just over a year. I've been photographing these ancient live oaks. And the youngest one might be 196 years old, and the oldest that I photographed and measured and calculated its age is 585 years old. Um, so these ancient oaks have a lot of wisdom, and there's a lot of peace that I experience in walking around them and photographing them. So I kind of woke up and I was kind of having a moment early morning. I don't know what time it was, but I played this uh, short 2-minute video, which I rarely do. I tend to go for stills rather than video. Uh, um, but I played this 2-minute video that I shot of this 338-year-old tree that I photographed in Tallahassee. And almost immediately, it brought me back to a place of peace. And I shared it on social media this morning because I thought, well, people have rarely seen that from me, the video aspect. But I thought, how beautiful that the work can do that. The work did that in my early days after my first trip to New Mexico, I would put on the slideshow at night in my little apartment in Alexandria, Virginia, when I could wake up and couldn't sleep. And I put on slideshow of my New Mexico pictures and with some background music. And it always brought me peace. It helped me to calm down and to focus on, beauty, love, and spirit. And so the work still does that. And it does that for me. So I continue, and it does that for others, which I'm really grateful for.
Of course, listen, every time you do something, you want to make sure that you're taking the time, not rushing through it. If you rush through it, it's not going to be perfect. Like, it's like doing art, like you just sitting there and just sculpturing a sculpture, you're just doing it or reading chapters out of a book. You want to read each chapter at a time and make sure you can get it right without any errors, because we want to make sure it's done to the best of our ability. Because I've seen people, they take their time out of their day to make sure they got all the aesthetics and key points of whatever art they're trying to make. And I think that's really important. You want to make sure that you've done the research and know exactly what you're going for, and people will enjoy, the kind of art that you're trying to put out, because people are looking for what kind of story you're trying to tell us here. And that's really important.
Yeah, they're often. It's funny. People come in there, they're looking for something, but sometimes they don't know what.
Mhm.
It may not be just something to put on their wall. They may be searching for something, and sometimes, an image will resonate with something inside of them, um, and for a number of pieces and bodies of work, I have to do a little research, sometimes before, sometimes during, sometimes after. Uh, but because I bring all of that into the work, and I think people recognize that and resonate with it. Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Well, I think that's the smartest thing to do. So we got to keep doing that.
Yes, sir.
So, this one's about your book. Now, just to let you know, I haven't read your book yet, but I've read the description about it, and it seems pretty interesting. In your book, Healing Hands, you explore themes of connection and healing. Now, what role does healing play in your creative process today?
I think it's all a part of it. I really love this Healing Hands project. In fact, recently, and I started this project in 1995. And Phil, as you may know or will find out, I'm kind of a long time relationship kind of guy, at least when it comes to art. Because my projects aren't, I don't just do something, oh, it's over. I don't do 10 pieces, 12 pieces, and it's done. My several bodies of work I've done over several years that have created quite a number of images from, uh, and the Healing Hands uh, project that I started uh, has gone into places and has taken me places where I'd never have dreamt of going or and being in. And I said sometimes the work determines the direction and the longevity. And as I was about to say, just recently, I received a grant from the St. John's Cultural Council to print, frame, and install 15 of these healing hands in the new West Augustine Health and Wellness Center in West Augustine on King Street. The first clinic in that underserved uh, community. And I have portions of these bodies of work in different healing clinics, health clinics in Minnesota and New Mexico, and even in one in Jax. Um, so I know the power of that work. So I don't maybe start out going, oh, okay, this image is going to be healing for me or somebody else. I just try to tune in to the moment or the energy the person has or in someone's hands or their environment, and try to create something that uh, and recognize something that speaks to me. And by me recognizing it, hopefully others will recognize it as well. Uh, and I've learned too, uh, through my process and reading a little bit, that like whatever you focus on expands. If you focusing on uh, peace, beauty, and spirit, there's chances are that that's going to expand. If you're focusing on chaos, disruption, anger, whatever, you may get more of that, or you, you may be focusing on more of that than the opposite. So for me in my life, I try to deal with life on life's terms and focusing on the positive, healing, beautiful spiritual aspects of everything I encounter. Uh, you know, when I'm in my right mind. um, so the healing aspect is an important part of my work, and it continues to heal, and hopefully I can continue to share that.
Yeah. And I actually like the concept when you came out with doing the healing hands project, because we have like there's all sorts of people who have like those good and bad days, and everything's not going to be sunshine and roses, but we have to have like some kind of like these sit down talks and understand how we can try to do better next time if something goes bad. And I think that's one thing that Healing Hands does discuss, because there are going to be some negative times in our life. It's how we get through them that matters.
That's true, Phil, and they have and they will continue. So it's kind of like how and and they, of course, they teach you and they inform you and they mold you and they encourage you and inspire you. They can break you down too, but the things that happen can give us reason to look for the opposite. To look for, as again, the beauty in things, the healing nature of things, and the power and the grounding, the spiritual aspects of things. So I try to turn um, what I experience in both in positive and not so positive experiences. I try to turn that into things of beauty. Some of my best work has been come as a result of difficult times. Um, and so I try not to judge too much what's happening. I experience varied emotions and attitudes, but I try to turn that uh, into some nice work and speak to that in a way of creating something.
course, of course. Um, we're almost at the end of this section, and then we'll be in culture, history, and responsibility. Are you enjoying our discussion so far?
It's good, Phil, and I'm good on time,
All
so
right,
no rush.
just making sure. um, number 7, your work is now part of permanent collections and institutions like the Muhammad Ali Center and the Snipe Museum of Art. Now, when you think about your art being preserved long after you're gone, what emotions come up?
You're gonna make me cry, Phil. Um, recently I've been thinking about that, and uh, 'cause I haven't set out to do that, but again, the work kind of dictates, what's going to happen. I have to present it. I have to make it available. I have to let people know about it. But the energy and the intent and power uh, of the work kind of sets its own course. Uh, One of the things that really helped me before the Healing Hands book, and what inspired the Healing Hands book, was I came across two monographs. One was from an Italian photographer, Tina Modati. Excuse me, and she was friends with historic photographers like I think Edward Weston and or Paul Strand. Uh, and I discovered a monograph of hers, and I bought it. It was out of print, but actually I found like a used one at I can't one of these online used booksellers, and that book and a book by a local Taos photographer. Um, I can't believe I'm spacing on her name right now, but it had come to me. Uh, Her book, Mildred Tolbert was her name, of photographs that she had taken in Taos. Uh, those two, the Tina Modati, that might have been 1950s or 40s. And Mildred's book was probably in the 90s. Early late 80s or early 90s. I don't It's probably more like the 80s. Anyway, those two books inspired me and inspired me to start thinking about a book, and the Healing Hands collection people love. So I said, okay, I'll do this. Um, but what inspired me was to leave something that might inspire someone else later. And I also, after my 23 years in Taos, I did a 20-year retrospective book, which was like a love letter to Taos, my different, pictures over 20 years that I had taken in various kind of categories and subject matter. Uh, and I wanted to leave that because Taos gave me so much, so much. It helped me to become who I was as an artist, who I became as a man. Um, it taught me a lot about myself and humankind and the art world. Uh, so I wanted to leave something, and I wanted to carry on, and now, and that was kind of practice. One thing leads to another, and now that my 8 years here, and I had to be honest, I didn't love it when I got here because I moved from the Southwest to the South, and all that goes along with kind of being in the South, which is not always positive. Um, and so I had to turn my focus on things that really matter, which we'll get into that in this next section, I'm sure. Uh, but I thought, you know what? Uh, while I'm here, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to do work that uh, one that honors the people that were here before me, uh, the ancestors that were here before me, the creatives that were here before me, uh, the activists, the heroes, the seldom seen and heard. I would do something that would honor them, and maybe something that would stand the test of time for future generations, be it in an institution and in the museums there, which I plan to create work that will hopefully survive there, um, um, and work that future generations can enjoy and to be inspired by, to reflect on. And even though I want it to be seen, noticed, and collected today, really have to guard against being that the primary focus. I have to support myself, and I want to thrive. I don't want to be a starving artist. Um, but the focus has to be the dedication to honoring uh, the people that were here before and preserving something for the people in the future. And when I can operate with those two things as a priority, then I feel pretty good, and my work is influenced, inspired, and guided by that. And then it's true. And so I really love that. And I can't do it all at once. I have to do a piece at a time. Um, so I'm working toward that end of leaving uh, complete bodies of work here before I go.
Yeah, I don't know, it's tough to think about, but whatever you do in life, you want to make sure that you leave something behind and it's going to have a huge impact on others. And sometimes it's hard for us to think about those things, because I was like, I've done so much work. What's going to be like the top thing that's going to like really inspire someone to start doing something like this? It's something we have to figure out while we're still here.
Yeah, and to do your thing, just like you're doing, because you'll by doing your thing, you'll learn about what it is that you can leave, or what should be left, or what you enjoy and others, both now and the future, will enjoy as well. So you're on the right track too, man.
I try my best every day. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
So, now that we're out of that session, we're in culture, history, and responsibility. Now, you've turned your lens towards documenting the African American experience and the historic landmarks in St. Augustine locally. Now, when you photograph a place tied to real struggle and resilience, what responsibility do you feel as the storyteller?
To tell the truth, Phil, to tell the truth. I think it's kind of funny. Before moving here, I was like, what in the hell am I going to photograph in St. Augustine, Florida? Because before coming here, I knew nothing of the African American history, which is some of the oldest in the country. Of course, this being the oldest city, it has some of the oldest African American history. Some of the first Africans, landed in Florida in the 1500s. The city was established in 1575, but there was visits before then, 1513, I believe. Some of the Spanish explorers, they had both enslaved and free Africans with them. And so I discovered that when I got here. And then I discovered in about Fort Mose, the first freed settlement for Africans was established, I think, 1738, where enslaved people were leaving the Carolinas and Georgia with the hopes of, on foot, of course, some by boat, but on foot, to try to come to Florida and become free with certain, stipulations. So I knew none of this. So when I got here, I began to discover that history. And, I rented an apartment in Lincolnville on MLK, and riding my bike in the evening, I discovered the Lincolnville Museum, the Accord Freedom Trail Museum, all the historical Accord Freedom Trail markers. And I started getting a real education, and then I started getting ideas. And I knew nothing of this history. So if I don't, I'm sure, a lot of people, both here and certainly abroad, had no idea what happened here, who was here, why they did what they did, and how this area developed, and a side of history that maybe is not seldom seen or told. So I said, well, I'm just going to do this, and started as a personal project, and now this one, this Where We Stand project, where I place shoes in historical places and uh, uh, representing historical people and events. That little personal project, and I thought, whatever, I'll do a dozen or so. I think now I'm up to about 105 images and stories, and I'm about about done. I just have maybe a couple more to shoot, and then there's a lot of a couple of dozen or so images that I have to work up, and then kind of write the narratives, tighten up the narratives for. But that work has led me uh, to to tell the truth, tell the stories, and to leave something behind, as well as a couple other bodies of work that are focused on history and culture, spirituality that I'm working on.
Mm. Yeah, because I know St. Augustine is a small town, and yes, it is a small town. But in some situations, when we go to different places, we have to learn how to adapt in different areas. And if you've learned how to adapt when you start doing all the photography and stuff, like you got your own space doing all this artwork, and this worked out for you, great. But yeah, no matter where you go, it's you just got to get adjusted. It may not happen on the first day, but baby
Right?
steps. I always tell people baby steps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I say the same thing. It's not a race, man. I'm more like the tortoise, not the hare. I just kind of go at my own pace and try to do my thing and create work. And again, I'm learning as I go. One one story leads to another, uh, and so have never really been a history buff, but I have become more so here. And what comes of that too is learning the stories and the history of the people that were here before. Um, More importantly, maybe in the civil rights era, and talking firsthand with some of these people and photographing them, and then learning some of the stories. It truly inspires me, and it puts the present day into perspective, and it uh, it gives me a reason to continue. It gives me reasons to honor. Gives me reasons to share what people have done and what they've experienced, and to use that as a template, use that as a comparison of kind of like what people are doing today, or they think they're doing, or more importantly, me. So what am I doing? These people, a number of these people just played their part in whatever way they could um, to make a difference. So, God, if I can do that in my way and do it artistically and to inform, educate, motivate, activate folks, then if I can keep that in the forefront, I feel pretty good about what I'm doing and why I'm here.
That's sweet, man. And actually, that was gonna add on to that question because that's gonna be the next question about history. Hey, so ah, sorry, I'm trying to get on my thoughts. No, number nine. Do you ever feel the weight of history when you're shooting, like you're standing in conversation with the past?
All the time. And I say when I'm in my right mind, yeah, when I'm not so much thinking about me or thinking about an end or a result. Uh, I do good when I can go into a situation or a place or a setting, uh, and I'll ask, "What do you want me to see? What do you want me to know? What do you want me to share?" And I believe in spirits or folks are still um, available and to communicate, to inform, to inspire. So I tend to ask, what is it that I should do here? Um, Sometimes it's clear, And then sometimes it's just a matter of just take the damn picture and you'll figure it out later. If you like, we can't always make a long range, clear, concise plan. Uh, Sometimes it's just we're only privy to uh, the moment or the next step or what's right in front of us. And only more will be revealed when you kind of take that first step. Uh, and then you get informed or inspired or privileged to go to the next step and then the next and the next. And that's kind of the path. Um, so I try to do that with the work is to just when I get an idea and they come crazy, Phil, they may come in the middle of the night or I may be sitting here in the gallery and go, oh, I'm going to do this. Or, I focus in on a place, a person or an event, and then someone else comes up, another place comes up. So, I'm on this little, I play a history detective, and I try to just go from one to the other. Um, and not worry so much about the details. It's just focus on what stories am I acting as a conduit to share. Um, when I do that, I'm in a pretty good place, and then I I have things of substance to to talk about and to create images about.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's the same thing too. Like we do something, we'll worry about the context later. Let's just get the job done first. Because I know with you doing so many projects, it's like hard to keep up with everything. Because once you get on set, you just gotta take as many pictures as possible, and then I have to sit in my own art room and think about, okay, what exactly do I want to say in my description here?
Yeah, well, you do at some point have to think, well, what am I trying to do? Right? What do I want to share, or what what do I feel needs to be shared or seen? Uh, and I'm always asking those questions. Yeah,
Yeah, you always gotta ask. Listen, whatever you're doing, you gotta ask yourself the difficult questions. And listen, sometimes if it's gonna take like a long time for me to figure it out, like at least 2 days at best, then sure, because it's something huge that I've done in a while, and I want to make sure like this is perfect for everybody to see and understand. If I just say, oh, this that and whatever, it's not going to be as enticing as people think it was, and it's going to make me feel like I didn't do good enough and really take the time to sit down and understand what exactly is this, what exactly is this picture trying to tell us.
yeah. You want it to matter, and sometimes it does. Sometimes it's uh, I try not to get too trip on being too ideal or lofty, or have something to have great meaning. Sometimes and I've learned that this is perfectly fine. Sometimes it's just about, it's just about beauty. Uh, and beauty has its place, not glamour so much or trendy, but just pure beauty has its place too, because that, that, that brings peace as well. So, uh, I try to just follow my inspiration wherever that leads.
That's all that matters. Wherever it takes you, that's enough for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we're at the finale now. So it's been nice. Redefinition and future vision. Now, you described redefining your unique and spiritual vision since arriving in St. Augustine. Now, how do you know when your art is evolving versus when you're simply experimenting?
Uh, well, sometimes I feel that's hindsight. Uh, I'm learning more and more to trust my instincts, and all the while too knowing I don't have to fully understand uh, or define. just trusting my instincts. And sometimes after a point, you have those aha moments. Oh, this is what this is about, or this is what this body of work is going to do, or uh, nothing. Sometimes things don't happen until you get a group together, a group of images together, and you go, ah, so this is the purpose. This is the impact. This is the meaning. Um, I don't always know when I'm doing it, but often I have a good idea or trust that I will. Um, and for me right now, probably have, I don't know, 25 bodies of work, but uh, here and now, I have and focused on that Where We Stand series that's nearing completion. And I have the Magnolia season book, which, I've photographed these beautiful magnolias for 8 years and have written haikus. So I've narrowed it down to 69 images and 69 haikus. And I hope to produce that this spring. I have a series called The Street Saints, where they're collages of photo collage of Catholic saints of African descent. And the models for these uh, portraits of saints are unhoused people that tend to walk by the gallery. So I approach them and dress them with typically thrift store clothing that's similar in color to iconic paintings of these saints. Um, so I have a series. I think I have maybe 13 done, and I have two more that I have to work on, and one more to shoot. Um, so that's will come to a close in the next couple months or so. Um, I have I got a grant from the Cultural Council in December to document the uh, churches in Lincolnville, uh, and a couple other historic buildings in Lincolnville. I photographed them at night. That series is called When Dreams Become Memories, because uh, early on those structures were just dreams for people, and now for some they're just memories. Most of the churches are still active, but I want to document those while they're still here, while I'm still here, and write a little history on each of those churches. Um, I'm a photographer that includes history, not a historian that includes photographs. There's a street, I mean, there's a porch portrait series where I get on the porches of longtime St. Augustine Lincolnville residents, and I talk about what life used to be like, uh, primarily in the 60s, 70s, and kind of what it's like for them today. And I try to do a nice portrait of them because in the South, like everything took place on their porch. Uh, so conversations as well. So I try to get on these people's portraits and kind of learn firsthand. They hear some history firsthand, both uh, African American history and personal history, and I try to document that, uh, with a nice portrait. So those bodies of work are really on my heart and take up the majority of my inspiration and focus and time. And I'm focusing on these ancient oak trees. Started out as pure pleasure and a way of, and I used a large format film camera. So it really, I'm forced to slow down. Maybe one image might take 10 minutes to set up and shoot, or more, 10 minutes or more. Uh, and and so that uh, forces me to slow down. And with that view camera, uh, looking through the viewfinder, everything is upside down and reversed. So I really have to pay attention and look and focus and see what I want to create. And, being around anything that's uh, 300, 400, 500 years old, uh, there's history there, there's wisdom there. So just being around these tree beings, hopefully I'm gaining some wisdom and some insight. And uh, by documenting these trees, I In fact, I take the year of the tree, which I kind of calculate by this formula, and I subtract it from this year's date. And I get that date, and I look up some historic fact that happened in Florida at that date. So that may lead to something, uh, but I know it takes me off the asphalt and concrete and puts me in the trees and around these beings, and it's really satisfying, and the imagery is turning out to be pretty nice too.
Well, hey, keep all those documentations. Like, shoot, everywhere I go, I want to put all this stuff in a scrapbook when I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever ideas you get, you want to listen. Every time when I come up with something new, I put everything in my notes on my phone so I don't lose it.
Yep.
Always.
Yeah, it's nice to have a kind of a running list, an idea list. Uh, Even if you don't like look at it often, the fact that you do note it means that it's probably staying up here in your head, and then you can access it later and put it to use. Yes, sir.
Exactly. And we're at the last question. If someone walked into Galley Run 44 today and saw your work for the first time, what do you hope they feel, not think, but feel?
I just hope they do feel, and a lot is what it's. Uh, a lot of them do. It's funny. People from all over come through, and some come in and go, "Wow," and they get a hit of whether it's just beauty or spirit or peace or a sense of history, and they go, "Wow, this is just wonderful. I had no idea." And I love it when people say, "Well, I've been driving by a long time. I've been walking by a long time. I just thought I would come in and see it." And then they go, "Oh my God, what took me so long?" And then there's the flip side, Phil, where people come in and they might spend 15 seconds. And, there are plenty of people of color on my walls. There's plenty of history about African Americans. I got the African saints, Catholic saints of color here. They may not be interested in any of that. And they'll just spin on the carpet up front and turn and go out. But I do want people to come and just feel something. And often they do. And a lot of times they'll sit. As you know, I have plenty of chairs in here. So people come in to sit and hang. And we'll talk about whatever. And in some cases, we do some business.
Of course. Listen, hospitality, give them that first experience so they can understand how you do things. So this is what I do. And if you want, and like you said, let's sit down and have some conversations about it so they can understand and learn the history behind the photos as well.
Yes, sir.
So
that's important.
Exactly. Well, I think that wraps up everything. Did you enjoy our discussion today?
I really did, Phil. Thank you so much. As a late great artist friend of mine, Bill Rain, used to say, I think you're onto something. You may not know when you start or you're in the middle of it, but if you're inspired to do it, you're certainly onto something. So I encourage you and support you to keep on doing your podcast, and I'm curious to see where that leads.
Hey, I appreciate that very much.